Welcome back. Now, two major rulings with ramifications on the election are due this week. One, an appeal by IEBC seeking to quash the High Court decision cancelling the presidential ballot paper tender. And two, a case in which NASA seeks an electronic backup system in place in case the IEBC electronic identification of voters fails on election day. In studio tonight, we talked to NASA's Technical and Strategy Advisory Committee head, that is Professor Adam Zolo. Thank you for making time for us tonight. Jubilee Secretary General Raphael Tuju and Mule Musawa, an electoral expert and national coordinator of the Elections Observation Group. Thank you, gentlemen, for making time for us tonight. We're asking you tonight just how prepared is the country for the August election. Keep talking to us. The hashtag on Twitter is the big question. You can also text us on 22422. Professor Olo, you say a backup system must be in place, but an electronic one. And you don't mind calling for postponement of elections on the material day if the systems fail.
I think he's saying, I think the newspaper got it wrong. And I'll take you to the amended Constitution, Elections Act Amended Constitution 2016. Go to section 55B, and I ask Kenyans to go to kenyanlaw.org and pull it out.
We actually have it, and we'll put it on air.
It says that in case of a national disaster, then the Electoral Commission can postpone elections in that county, constituency, or ward. It doesn't say suspend everywhere, because a national disaster might occur. Of course, if it occurs throughout the country, that is an earthquake, definitely.
God forbid.
God forbid. But our major point is that in addition to the national disaster, among other emergencies contemplated there, is that the BVR kit can fail in that county, can fail in that constituency, can fail in that ward, and the others are all working. And therefore, the only one you postpone is that ward, or that particular constituency, or that county. Would that affect the result? Yes or no? If you remember 2002, when the results were coming in, and Samuel Kivitu said, we still don't have some constituency results, but by our tallying and calculation, there is no way that Uhuru Kenyatta can meet Mwai Kibaki. And therefore, the results were declared even before the results came in. That's our argument.
Right. And other issues, and we put it up, other issues include, reason to believe there's serious breach of peace. That is how the Commission called postpone the elections, or occurrence of an electoral malpractice of such a nature of gravity as to make it impossible for an election to proceed. I'm sure that is what you're talking about.
Exactly.
But this is in a specific ward, in a specific, depending on wherever that happens.
Exactly.
But you're also calling for a backup system, either way.
Exactly.
So without the backup system?
Let me say this. Again, you remember after the agreement between the two coalitions.
Yes. And
you remember they agreed that no comma, no nothing will be changed. But as an afterthought, under prodding by IEBC, an amendment was brought that you need a complementary system. And the point is system. You look at what they have provided in their regulations as a complementary system. They have blindly pulled from the Ghanaian case, which is talking of individual cases. Hussein Mohammed has gone. His BVR didn't show whether yellow, whether thumb, whether iris. But Adam Solo, in the same polling station, his BVR has been captured, the way it happens at times at airport, and so on. That is for an individual case by case. It's not a backup system. Remember in 2013, the whole technology failed and we were told that now we have to go back to manual. That's the complementary system we are looking for.
So there has to be a backup system either way, that's what you're saying?
A system, not for individual cases.
Raphael Tuju to respond to that.
Well, I must say that I have a lot of respect for our opponents. They have accounted today 19 cases which they are brought to court, starting with the first attempt by one Apollo Mboya to stop the swearing in of this particular IBC. And after that, there have been 18 other cases. The only admiration I have for you is the way you can have 18 cases and still pretend that you want the elections on the 8th. I mean, that is such mastery of deception that I can only admire.
We'll have
because
50 cases.
Yes, there you go.
Yes,
there you go. So
if
the thing is that what NASA failed to achieve in Parliament, they're trying to get it through court. And of all these 18 cases, 8 of them appeared before Justice Odunga. I mean, you can think you're stupid,
can I rebut that?
but you are not.
Yeah, you will. You will. Okay, so what are you saying, in other words? They are doing this because they don't want to do the election on 8th, is that what you're saying? Because that's what we've heard the president saying and the deputy president saying.
Precisely.
That is what you're saying.
And it's not only what I'm saying now, we've been saying this for the last 6 months or so. Because you cannot have that number of cases against this institution, stopping them from doing their work, unless you actually don't want them to work.
On the material or the substance of what they're talking about, how do you respond to what they're talking about in terms of having a complementary system? And they're talking about an electronic backup system.
Such hypocrisy. Because when we went back to Parliament to try and come up with an amendment to allow for a complementary system, they opposed it. So all of a sudden they've discovered now that there's need for a complementary system. Where's the honesty here?
You say.
Okay, I'll come official. Let's get Mulemu on this.
Well, I think I leave the politics to the politicians.
Yes, sure.
I'm an observer. I think there are a number of issues in terms of the complementary system. Yes, it is true that of course now the law says that we need to have a complementary system. From an observer's perspective, what is very important for us is to be having a clear, Article 86 of the Constitution talks about a very simple and a very accurate and verifiable process in terms of the election. And it is important to remind that Kenyans that, or even the managers of elections, that these elections are for the people of this country. So we have a system, and we have adopted a system, by the way, which is both an electronic and manual. It's important to know that we have a system where we are starting up with the electronic system. We have processes in between which are manual, because the balloting process, the counting process, these are manual processes.
But you're specific about identification.
And then we have the tail end, again, another electronic system where you're having transmission of results and all that. So if there's going to be a complementary system to that, first it needs to be a very simple system. If it ought to be electronic from the particular standpoint, it still has to be a simple system that can be able to be understood by people. Now, so the argument here, the question is, I think the ball has been on IB6 court for some time in terms of define
what complementary
is. So that everybody understands. We will not be having an issue where we have politicians from both this side and the other side arguing about this particular complementary system, where if it was very simple and understandable by everybody.
And that is actually make me ask him my next question, which I wanted to. It's 30 days to the election. You knew about this issue of the complementary system months ago. I mean, this thing was passed this law when we had squabbles in Parliament was since December.
Since the law.
Since December last year.
Ask yourself when the regulations came out.
That's fine, but since December last year, we had the amendment done, and in January it was about a complementary system. So at what point did you then decide, 20 days to the polls, to come now and say you want that defined properly and you want it to be an electronic system?
Look, let me rebut a few things before I answer your question. What he has raised is very important. That we have, under the 2016 law, an integrated election management system. It means identification is electronic. It means transmission of results is electronic. Look at that regulation they are talking of as a complementary system, which is going to be somebody announcing your name and agents coming and very. How will that result be transmitted? Number one. But let me go to what you're saying. You see, The complementary system, as you very well know, we opposed it. Because then they were talking of a manual system. And we have it on the Hansard, both in the National Assembly and the Senate. Key leaders, both the majority leader, Aden Duale, and Senator Murkomen, saying that what we are talking about is not a manual system. Backup. In the Hansard, and you see, I always tell people, go and look. You are asking why it took us this long. I want to let you know, in a meeting that I was, the principals of NASA questioned the commissioners that fine, we now have a law we didn't agree with, but it's the law, asking for a complementary system. What complementary system?
When is this? When was this? When is this?
That was in February. They didn't, and the regulations took so long, not only to be passed, which we are saying did not even have participation, but only came up sometime in April. And as you know, election is a process. I don't think that because we found out that there's a problem with the law, you can now tell us, why didn't you? It's our right. But let me go back to what
it's all right. It's all right. But there's a question here I'm asking.
Yeah.
This was in April.
Yes.
There is May, there's June, July, then August. There's 3 months.
Yes.
Now it's 20 days to the election.
Yes.
And you are seeking this to happen 20 days to the election. Is that possible? I mean, you have every right to go to court.
What is wrong with they themselves, and we have documentation, they themselves, when they were bringing this integrated management system components, they in fact asked for a waiver to be allowed to bring them without being tested from the port, and they got a waiver from the authorities here to do the same.
Okay.
So if it is about time, everybody is constrained of time, including the IRC. But let me just say one thing, what Tuju was saying.
If you allow me to also say something about what you said.
He keeps on running from the question. When you asked him, he ran to 19 cases. Then he mentioned that the cases are before Judge Odunga. If I can take the most recent one, Judge Odunga first referred that case to the CJ. Then the CJ himself appointed a 3-judge bench of Ngugi, Odunga, and Mativo. And they gave a unanimous decision. So if there was a problem with Odunga, how come Mativo and Ngugi unanimously agreed? And in any case, are you questioning Odunga's relation the way I heard you and not his judgment?
Okay. I think he should respond to that himself, because that's something which is in the public domain, and I think to be fair, everybody should come out and say yes or no. You said something which was wrong, or Jubilee said something which was wrong, and put us to task on that. But let me say this much. If people want to cheat, they'll cheat whether it is electronic or manual. In fact, all this infatuation with electronic is a red herring. In a country like the Netherlands right now, they do not even allow electronic because it is more prone to being manipulated by IT experts to, in a way, subvert the will of the people. And I like to put it on national TV. We have enough reason to be suspicious about this fixation to everything being electronic. All right? Hey, you have something up your sleeve, and we know what it is.
The law.
Okay. You'll respond. You'll respond to that. First, you're saying you have no problem with any system, whether manual or electronic. So why do you oppose to them calling for electronic backup?
No. We have not opposed it.
In court, you have.
Well,
you're not opposed. You're saying
in court we have.
You're saying it should be a manual backup.
No. The most important thing is that we must have a backup which is verifiable, which is simple, and which can deal with the peculiarities of this country. I mean, there have been failures even in the UK itself, in Heathrow Airport. There was a failure of electronic system and people could not fly out. So how about at Uriri constituency? Do you want to tell me that if the electronic system fails, which can happen even deliberately by NASA itself, they can make it fail so that they can stand back and say, hey, this thing is shambolic. And their history is there to make us realize that you can actually, it is much easier to sabotage the electronic system than it is to sabotage a manual system. Ask the Electoral Commission of the Netherlands.
So, I mean, because the system, this is a backup you're talking about.
Yes.
The other system is already electronic. So you're saying it's easier now to mess up the elections of Kenya in August 2017 because it's electronic. What you're not going to do?
No, you must have a backup. For example, you can have something on your computer. All the data is there. But the backup is the printout of what is in the computer. So should electricity fail, you have a backup. But you see, what they're looking at is to have no backup. So that then when people go to Kibera and they have sabotaged the equipment so that it doesn't work, then they can go to the street and say, there's shambolic elections here. We know this tricks.
I think there's a need to clarify some of the issues. Beyond the politics, there are things that can be able to agree.
But that's not politics, that's the truth.
I'm just saying, can be able to
agree. And in fact, it's not even politics, it's just...
No, but I'm going to respond. I'm a disciplined debater. I will get my time now.
So, there are some things that can be able to agree with what we're saying in terms of, from looking at from a system point of view. Electronic systems are most prone worldwide to security hacks, to security issues, and that's proven. I mean, the case with Trump and the American election is also a very good example to pick at this particular point. And that's why I insisted, when you want to talk about any complementary system or any system for an election, that's why I like referring to that Article 86 first, because it is an election of the people. It needs to be first simple, something that everybody can be able to understand. The fear, of course, there's been a lot of fears in terms of manual manipulation of the manual systems.
Because that's happened before.
But my take is that we are going to an election where first we are learning lessons from 2013. IEBC has tried to put in place a number of mechanisms to ensure that lessons from 2013 have been learned. They are in the process of trying to, for instance, I think in a meeting yesterday where a number of stakeholders were trying to appraise how ready IEBC were as far as the elections are concerned, and some of the issues they picked out was that they have, tuned up issues about training. They have a number of ICT people in different remote areas to be able to address some of the issues, which were not there in 2013. So there is an attempt to try to make it good in terms of handling the electronic systems that we have, and they have also been testing the same. Now, the question that is being brought to the table is what is the system which is going to be there in case this one fails. And that is why, again, the appeal and the managers in this particular regard are the IEBC. They need to come out and ensure that the public, based on the regulations that they have set out, ensure that everybody understands the entire process and is very clear, so that anybody who is raising any queries can raise queries in terms of that process and not in terms of whether is it electronic or it's manual. And like I said, we're going to employ both systems whether we like it or not anyway in the process of the election.
Okay. As a closing
my countrymen can really stretch arguments. Let me tell you, leave the Netherlands aside. Let's talk of Kenya. In 2007, when we had difficulties with our elections, we brought Johan Kriegler, and under IREC, they said the register was such a mess, and they recommended for us to go electronic. They said, let this black book thing be a thing of the past. 2013, what did we see? A change in color, green book, we ignored. Let's go to the technological bit. Petition number 5 of 2013, even as they ruled in favor of President Uhuru Kenyatta, they said that one of the massive failures that needs to be addressed is the way technology failed. And that's what the Elections Act Amendment 2016 was trying to cure. Any law that you come up with, you look at what is the mischief you want to cure. And remember, in that 2013, if I can remind Kenyans, when they said that candidate number 9 had appeared, you know candidate number 9 was who? Rejected votes. None other than the then IBC chairman of the commission came and told us, the IT guys have told us that every rejected vote is being multiplied by 8. Any standard 3 student knows that you multiply an even number by an even number, you get an even number. An odd number, by an even number, you get an lie. By IBC. Now he's saying that it is us, as mass, who want to cheat. Ask yourself, when, for example, we keep on asking IEBC for something, including the register that the civil society is asking for, Jubilee is silent. Why? Is there something they know?
Because that
with IEBC
is provided for in law.
that
Yes.
we don't know?
And let me tell you one thing. Can I respond?
Okay, just
the first thing that I want to tell you is that Jubilee is in government. And let me tell you, if we start bashing as government Jubilee, I mean, if Jubilee starts bashing IBC, I think there will be a crisis in
So you'd
country.
rather have a flawed election?
No. Let me finish, because I let you finish, so you let me finish. So
I will.
So we are not in the business of bashing IBC. Very often we've expressed our dissatisfaction, our worries, but we do it through letters, and I've done several letters to IBC raising our concerns. So I think you have to understand that the way we engage has to be different, because if we, you're lucky, you can go to the streets, make noise at their gates.
And
my president, and my president cannot go there to the streets and start making noise. So we have to engage in a more civil way. But this is the truth. This is the truth, and let's keep it simple. You yourself has accepted that during the last elections there was an error, so that rejected votes were being multiplied.
It was
by
made
8.
so. You had hacked it.
It is made so. Now, when you're talking about hacking, we've just come from the experience of the United States, where the person who complained the most about rigging of elections was one Donald Trump, and he's now the one being accused of having rigged. So, electronic interference can be done by NASA and can be done by government side. So let's be honest about that. But I want to tell you a reality and a fact. If the system fails and the people of Kibera go to the polls and they are told you cannot yet vote because
people of anywhere else in that
Section 55B.
Let me allow me to finish.
Yeah.
Allow me to finish, because really, if it's a shouting match, I don't know if you'll be able to beat me on that one. If people in Kibera go to vote and 8 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, they are waiting for the systems to work and they are not working and we don't have a backup, we'll have chaos in the streets. And that is exactly what NASA is trying to precipitate, so that we can have chaos and a crisis.
Because you know technology is going to fail. Do you know something?
Given what you guys are trying to do from Arusha, could be possible.
I don't know what unless you want to substantiate what you're saying. I don't know what you mean to say about Arusha. But I mean, there's no doubt, or should there be doubt, that an electronic system can be perfect? Can it be perfect?
Of course it can.
Of course it can, and that's why even in Ghana.
You all agree it can.
And that's why that's why
you want an electronic backup system.
Exactly.
So if this doesn't happen, then what? If we go into the election without an election, if the court doesn't rule in your favor, are you going to go to the highest?
We always cross the bridge when we come to it.
Okay, I'll give the winding remarks now to Mule to get
I think again on this issue about I think for me with the remaining 20 days, IEBC needs to take leadership of the country in terms of giving directions on what the processes are supposed to be. Yes, they need to clear up the matter in terms of what the complementary systems are, make it very easy for the public to be able to understand. But further, they also need to go ahead and even share the voter register, and transparency is one of the key components. The major issue that we've been discussing, Hussein, since the start of the year has been the question of trust.
Yeah.
I want to see my manager of elections in this country taking the podium instead of the politicians taking the podium. So explain these complementary systems, make it, of course they've tried to do that in the regulations, but let it come to the public, let it be accepted, let the voter register also be accepted by sharing it with members of the public, so that nobody sees that there are any hidden motives out there. And if that is done, and because Kenyans have this peculiar habit of trying to do their things at the last minute, we are all guilty of doing those things, we can still be able to manage these elections come 8th of August this year.
And it's interesting times ahead. They both agree, at the very least, that systems can fail, That's why you want an electronic backup system. But you also both agree they can be hacking into the electronic system, but they can also be rigging through the manual system, which has happened before in this country. So let's see how the courts rule on those matters. Key rulings, like I said, coming up this week. Well, thank you so much, Head of NASA's Technical and Strategy Advisory Committee, Professor Adam Zolo, Jubilee Party Secretary General Raphael Tuju, and
what's the opponent?
and an electoral expert and national coordinator of the Elections Observation Group, Mulle Musau. Thank you so much for making time for us tonight.
Thank you.